gapping up 0.5%, right? So when you gap up 0.5%, you've got to be super careful. You got to be super careful on this because you may just start to just roll off the table over here. And so we want to be trading around this level. Like if we had a flat open today and then we kind of spiked into this, like that would give us a little bit more range. But like gapping up 0.5%, we've flushed down twice into the supply zone. So we'll have to be careful. Now, obviously, the more times you test a level, you'll soak up that level of supply and be able to push through. And overall, the price action has been really strong. But these are just things that just be mindful of is like sometimes like the market can be cruising like this and you're thinking like, damn, like this is nice pickings over here. And then you run into resistance, especially when you're so overbought and you get this kind of waterfalling effect. And you'll see that a lot. Like you see like so many names rolled over yesterday, into the close. So unless you're trading like some kind of PR name, you'll have to be mindful of this kind of resistance level on the market. If you're looking at the IWM, same type of deal. How many times has the IWM faked out this fucking year? Hold on, let me get rid of this volume at price. How many times did the IWM look like it was going to break out and then it just goes boop, and now it's kind of back into support here? That's what range trading is in a nutshell. When things look good, they become bad, and when they look bad, they become good. And that's just how it goes. Hey, Florian, how you doing, buddy? Let's take a look at market breadth here real quick. That's something to just be mindful of. The price action has been good, so we haven't really seen there's been a slight deterioration in market breadth and a slow number of breakouts of recent, but the price action has been fairly good. So it's been concentrated in a handful of names, but that actually just makes it a little bit easier to find. But you can see here, like breakdowns are starting to increase versus breakouts. That'll be something to be mindful of. Now that's very, very common because we're stuck at resistance. So it's not like a huge deterioration where we would have to be thinking like, 2 steps ahead and say like, oh, fuck, like this market's going to roll over. It's a small deterioration, but that is natural. Like if you're coming into like some resistance spots. So these are just kind of different things that we have to trade around. But I would keep a mental note or a physical note, around this 383 level, because if you gap up and you run straight into this, you have to look for signs on a shorter term time frame. If there's a deterioration in the tape, we may have to, go back in and kind of short this thing. We'll see, right? That's how we got to roll with this. Let's take a look at the earnings plays. There's been more than enough earnings plays that kind of keep you busy. When you're looking at the market, if you're trading just like a regular stock, like if you're trading like Apple or something like that, or, Tesla, then it's going to move with your overall indexes. But if you're trading names that just had like some type of fresh PR out, some type of news out, then those are going to trade and have their own independent order flow to what's happening in the indexes. So then in those cases, you don't have to sit there and stare at the market index and time your trades with it. So trade accordingly, but there's a bunch of earnings plays out there that I think should be in play here. HCW, this is probably a pump and dump. LC, man, they kept this thing up too much. So like LC, this is the kind of earnings breakout like you really want to be a part of. First of all, anything with lending has been really flying off the table this year, but a 30% gap up is really tough. But it is a big, big gap up. If you look here, like this is going back quite a few years. So this level here, if we go back on this bad boy, let's look at a weekly chart here. Like if you go back, this level, it's getting over levels it hasn't been in 5, 6, 7 years. So that's huge. Now, the problem is 30% gap up. Normally, like if you're like some biotech stock, 30% gap up doesn't mean shit. But if you're like a normal company, right, that trades like in a normal manner, then a 30% gap up is going to be like really tricky. So what we'll need is like some type of pull on this type of action. Like you need a quick pullback buy or something like that, but it's going to have to be a deep one. Let's add it to the list. Like if it starts to, if it starts to hunk its way down, we'll be okay. Like you can see, like we've got a little bit of gap to fill. You start coming back. Like sometimes, like if you even fill like half the gap, you'll get a nice little pop on it. Trit Daddy. This type of play has been working in this market. You know, you can see here something was, somebody's doing a little pumping. Somebody's doing a little pumping. Triteris announces audit committee investigations concluded lack of factual support. That doesn't really fucking mean anything, by the way. That's like a big load of shit. But this is the type of play. Like you see this like kind of bottoming pattern. This is the type of play that's been working in this market. I'd add that for now. Not a total, not my exact favorite, but it could go. BKKT, these are the warrants for BKKT. I think BKKT is in play. Now, I was almost going to keep some lottos from our entry yesterday. It's only got about a 5% gap up. I think this thing is in play today still. You know, we were having a little bit of fun with this yesterday. BKKT still top of the list for us. This fucking WeWork, by the way, take off. BKKT's top of the list. You know what? It trades pretty well too. That's the big thing, right? Like it was a little bit zigzaggy at the end, but it got nice, clean moves. The one thing with this one is, right, you want to sell always into these power candles when you get it. We got to come in hot on this thing, and we'll shred this thing. Let's look for a little pull on the open on BKKT. DAX chat. This thing is almost untradeable at this point. There's too many eyes on it. It gets pulled randomly. It pops, drops, pops, drops. We had a couple good trades on it, and then, man, I had a couple where it's like, you're in it, and you're like not paying attention, and next thing you know, it's like, whoa, mega penis candle to the downside. Untradeable for moi. DWAC. Hey, so this DWAC had a bounce off the 9 EMA yesterday. This is still top of the list. You know, the warrants seem to move cleaner, at least yesterday. You could see here, like, this is DWAC, and it was a little bit, but they did have this nice kind of $10 move over 20 minutes. Jason, you missed a lot of fun yesterday. Yeah, this was really nice. I think the warrants might move a little bit cleaner. You could see, like, it just had a little bit more structure to see how the candles are forming. You know, so if you look, when you're thinking like, okay, what are the odds of me getting fucking stopped out of this, right? Like you can see that. You got a little bit more heebie-jeebies on this. Is that proper terminology for trading? I think you got a little bit more heebie-jeebies on it, but we'll see how they open up. I think those are going to be good. Ford Motor Company. Hello, guys. Welcome to Ford Motor Company, home of the F-150 and the Ford Taurus. Man, the Ford Taurus. Now, that was a car. All right, Ford. Man, 10% gap up. That's probably the biggest gap up Ford's had in years. It's a thick stock, right? Like, 10 billion share float probably, or 4 billion share float. That's a no buenos for us. Leave it alone. Bud, this is ADR. See the intraday ranges? No good. DCRC. Ooh. Decarbonization Plus Acquisition Corporation. That just sounds nice, doesn't it? Nobody knows what that means, but that sounds nice. That's a pretty big base. You got a good volume accumulation in this. Let's see if the liquidity holds on something like this. Like if it can kind of hold this spot and build, that might give us a little juice. Usually these kind of big runners are doing 1 million plus volume in the pre-market, but maybe this is just something that gets picked up along the way. I'd add that to the list. Yeah, I'd add it to the list. Let's put that on the list. We're gonna have to we can't chase it off at the open. Let it settle. We'll see if it opens. I'd be loath to do an ORB on it. Let's see if it pulls back. Almost all these SPACs are doing much better on the pulls. OSTK got earnings out today. If you can hold this range, we've got a history with OSTK. If it can hold this range, you may send this to the top of the trend line. You can see here on a longer term basis that you got a nice thing. Now, OSTK is perennially and annually known to just dump out of nowhere. There's a big spread on this, is the term, right? There's a big spread on this. It could be 50, 60 cents. So you have to cut your size in half on this. You got to cut your size probably in half on this, but man, it can move. Like when it goes, if any of you guys remember in the past, like when we traded this bad boy, like when this thing fucking goes, like this was 2020, so just last year, is it $3, $4? It went to $125. When it wants to go, it can go. And we had good times with OSTK, didn't we? We laid the snake on this thing so many times. Man. For old time's sake, I think we add this to the list. If it holds this range and starts to build on there, the float is pretty low on this. So like you're talking 30 million shares, and it's a mid-cap company. So it does, even like a 7% gap is not something that's so obscene, but it's got a history of making moves both ways. I think we got to come in on this one. You know, it's also got kind of that Bitcoin theme, you know, because of whatever they do on that side of things. Man, that's a nice overall look. It'd be nice if we started to come out of that range. You know, we could use a new momentum stock anyways. We've been pounding the butt of a firm and UPST for too long. Okay, so add OSTK, DWAC, BKKT is already rolling over. That's actually probably a good thing. We want to see some weakness on this. Ideally, right, we get a little flush off, and then we'll see if the bid firms up on it. STM, Spur. Man, OSTK, that's nice. So you can see here, this HUT's still holding up. This is the one I do like. It did fade off a little bit yesterday, but you've got kind of a multiple test on the breakout over here. I think Lucid is probably on the non-wild stocks. This is like a stock that's going to move around more, probably like $2, right? Where like a BKKT or DWAC today will probably have a $10 range. This will be a nice, steady kind of trade. We've got a level here. We ended up fading off yesterday a little bit. And you can see that's 2 days in a row that we've popped and faded. So now we're kind of coming back into the supply zone again. I like it. I like it. My only worry with the Lucid is that it's just a thick little noodle, meaning like sometimes like when you get in, right, it's like AMD, it just takes a little bit to get it going. And then when it gets going, it's fine. But just need that little push to get it going. So let's add that to the list. I like that one a lot. You're getting a pop in these Bitcoin stocks. These are on permanent watch list for the next like month or two. Mara, HUT. Right, sucks to trade. Mara, HUT are the two best at trade. You know, and then, you know, there's offshoots of it, but the rest of them are really tough to trade. Like Can's a tag, ETBT's a tag. You know, Mara's the cleanest out of the charts and also just moves the cleanest. And then HUT is like kind of the more speculative name. As long as it holds over this breakout spot, we've got ourselves a nice chance on this bad boy. So add the two Bitcoin stocks. We've got DWAC, we got BKKT. There was a pop and drop in solars yesterday. I think we might be able to get a day two play on this ENPH. You had some blowout earnings on this thing, big expansion in volume. The intraday range was pretty good. Like you can see out these dips, like it did run 15 points yesterday. Man, I think that's probably for us. I mean, that's 6 windows layout worthy. That's sponge worthy right there for a day two play, especially if you start pushing towards yesterday's highs. This one's got the ability to make a move. Like you're getting into ATH territory. I like. Mr. Terry, how are you? Okay, so IRMT, I don't got a good read on this because this was probably just a 1 day kind of, this could have been just a 1 day popper, and you're running right into resistance on this. I mean, you're already opening down 14%. This was most likely just a little bit of a pump and dump, short squeeze kind of thing. I don't know if there's a play on it now because like you're stuck under this moving average. Like maybe there's a play back into this level, you know, like a kind of, if you saw some kind of intraday rounding, if you read the news on it yesterday, it was pretty funny. Like, yeah, I've seen all sorts of shitty news pieces, but that had an interesting one. Let's see if I fucking if I find it. Da-da, 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 da-da. Oh yeah, IRNT shares are trading higher after the company announced it joined the Microsoft Intelligent Security Association. Hey, we joined the Microsoft Association. Oh, fucking hey, God bless America. God bless America. So, Mr. Terry, I don't know if there's an easy play. It would really depend on like how deep you really want to watch this thing. Because the SSR will trigger on it. So like if when it pulls at the open, like you may get some kind of hold and that you could base it off of, but you can see with already the gap down that right, this thing is, it probably will get a quick squeeze and then it may fizzle off. Right, so these Chinese stocks are having a little nasty little reaction on some type of something. Future, Raphael, future. Look at this fucking thing. Shares lost 20%. This is a big breakdown that's coming down over here. Now, look, it's already down 23%. So it's probably going to squeeze up at the open. This is like the type of play, like you can hit it on the short side, but like you'd have to really let it squeeze. And then like at least a few points. And then like see how it reacts around your 9 EMA, 20 EMA, VWAP. Start to see like where it starts to hold. And then when it starts to turn back down, you can hammer it. But that's like, because the SSR will be on, it's already down 23%. It'll be a little bit tricky. Now, Twilio, blast from the past. Man, we haven't traded Twilio in a long time. This, like if we need a short, probably if this one squeezes up at the open, this is going to have pretty good range on it. That's not too bad. Let's add that to the gapper list. I don't know if that's sponge worthy, but I do think we might be able to take a little goose and a gander on that one. Futu, Twilio. You see IRNT getting smoked already. Boils a turd. Ooh, TDOC. I think this is an earnings play. TDOC net loss expands while shares surge. I would actually add this TDOC also to the short list. Yeah, I'd roll with this. This Twilio will need a lot more work because it's already getting, these tech stocks, especially the big ones, like when they gap down that much, they always squeeze a little bit at the open before they re-roll. But we'll keep an eye on it. TDOC, man, that's nice. This one's going to give probably a good range today too. Let's add that to the list. Oils, man, I never trade oil stocks. They just stink. Sammy. Oil stocks and retail stocks are like the two that I just never get a good read on. Yeah, like yesterday they were fine. Some days they're not. You can trade them if you want. Like there's nothing wrong with them. Remember, I'm an old man. I have biases for everything. How people drive, how people walk, how they wear their clothes, how people treat each other. Like I'll have a theory for everything. That way I don't have to ever do anything. So mostly it just means I'm full of shit, but I just make shit up to go with whatever I feel like that day. So it could work, but I don't trade oil stocks. Hey, Mr. J, what's going on? Hey, Mr. JC, I'm traded live in front of my guys every day. Good. All right, so let's go back through this. I think BKKT, Lucid's looking good. OSTK, I'm not that keen on this trick. I would move this to the bottom. OSTK, LC also too much of a gap. DWAC. Look, this DWAC is a tricky trader too. We got an awesome shred on it twice yesterday on the dip buy and then, on the end of day breakout. But it wasn't easy, like on something like this, like it's got to start working right away when you hit it, so your timing is right. Like if you notice, like both times we got into this, within like 10 seconds, it started to go. That's when like you've done it right. But if you get into this and then you're like sitting in it for like 10, 15, 20 minutes and it's not doing anything, it means right, your entry or your analysis of how you're getting in is wrong. You've got to be careful on this. Same thing, right? Like when we hit BKKT, I could have had a little bit earlier entry, but like the whole point is to get in like when it starts moving like real fast, right? So like, what do we have, 2220s or whatever, right? But that's when you start to get those big pushes. That's when you start to get those big pushes. So you got to always, it's not just a matter of price, it's a matter of time. I think this is a good list. We'll see about this DCRC. I'm not sure. Yesterday was a monster. We may need to take it a little bit easy at the open and see how things open up. On the other side, there are some good looking, just regular stocks. Cool. I think you can still, this Asana had a nice pullback into breakout. I think we've got a couple that are still holding up okay. Affirm is always on our trading list, so on and so forth. Good. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Mr. JC, you can always come and hang out in our Discord room if you get bored. All right, cool. Let's have some fun today, guys. Let's do what we do, which is the do.